First, I should tell you that I had no spiritual or religious upbringing at all in my life. None as a kid. I got married the first time at 25, and I had been to church 4 times in my life at 25 years old. And my parents weren't bad people, but alcohol was their God too. And so I remember when I was about 14 or 15 years old, I guess it was before 15 because I started drinking at 15, I once said to my father, I never want to be like you because of his drinking. And he said to me, people of that generation, said, if you don't learn how to drink, people aren't going to trust you. And I found that to be true. And those of you that are in recovery, and I know a lot of you are, if not all of you, you know that we don't do anything halfway. We work like dogs, right? If we're trying to get in shape, we work out like dogs. You can look at me and say, I eat like a dog. By the way, it takes a lot of work to look like this. And I'm willing to keep doing it. But anyway, alcoholism and the 30 years that I drank for led me to God. Because Pastor Phil talked about money being your God. Money was my God. Money was absolutely my God. The only thing that my first wife and I agreed on was that we both wanted to be rich. And every decision was based on money. Money was my God, alcohol was my God, and frankly, more than anything else, I was my God. I had a gigantic ego. Some of you that know me well might say that that's still a problem. But I had this gigantic ego, and I was proud of it, you know, and I was actually the most insecure guy in the world. I'd go to a party or something, I'd be off by myself, everybody else would be having fun. And it took drinks to make me have fun. It took drinks to get me to relax. As a young person, I thought that the best way to end up being rich was to become a lawyer, because everybody who I knew that was a lawyer made a lot of money, drove nice cars, had big houses. And that's what I wanted. So I went to law school. Zero interest in the law. Zero personality of a lawyer. And I was scared to death to do what I'm doing right now. And I mean paralytically scared to death. So if I can take you back for a moment to moot court, which is something all lawyers have to do when they're in law school, and I'm getting up in front of 600 people, and those of you who are guys out there will recognize when I tell you this part of the story. I'm sitting next to a beautiful woman before I go up, and I'm not interested in what I'm going to say. I'm interested in impressing her. So I walk up there, and I'm scared to death. My voice, I was 23 or 4 years old. My voice is breaking like I'm crying, right? And you could actually see, sorry if I'm bending down, you could actually see my legs shaking inside my pants. So I actually thought about, in the middle of it, just leaving. Like leaving law school in the middle of moot court. But you know what? I wouldn't give my father the satisfaction of doing that, because I think a lot of us have the kind of relationship with our same-sex parent, women with their mothers and men with their fathers, that they want to be the opposite, right? My father was a Yankee fan, I was a Met fan. My father was a Giant fan, I was a Jet fan. My father liked Joe Frazier, I liked Muhammad Ali. If you haven't heard of those people, sorry, I'm really old. whatever he liked, I liked the opposite of that. So, you know, I had this relationship with him that I would never give in to him. So I'm standing there scared to death in moot court, thinking to myself, there's a doorway right there. I could run right out, never come back. I thought, I'll have to answer to him. And not that I was afraid of him or anything like that, because he wasn't violent with me, but I didn't want to hear it. You know, I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. So I stayed. I never became a lawyer because I was too scared to get over public speaking. Now, I'm doing it right now, and you know, I may not be, you know, the greatest speaker of all time, but I'm having a good time. I don't know about you guys. This is, you know, this is not a problem for me anymore. And you know why that is? Thank you. Because of God. And I'm here to talk about God. Because when I come to church, it's an emotional experience for me. I always have an emotional experience at church. But the way I got to church was probably very much like some of you. So I drank for 30 years, and even though I did not become a lawyer, I had some pretty good success in my life. Got married, had a son, ran a fairly large business, you know, had nice cars, nice house, and I thought everything was going well, right? And the way that I got through life was by drinking. If I had to public speak, I figured out that 2 or 3 drinks, and I could speak to a group of 1,000 if I needed to. I'll never forget, I was running a conference in Las Vegas, and this was the Arby's restaurant chain, and we had 2,000 people in the audience, and I was to go on at 8 o'clock in the morning. I got up at 5 o'clock so I could drink enough to be able to go on stage and face those people. Now, once I had a few drinks in me, I could pick out one of the people in the front row and everything was great. And I forgot the other 1,995. That's how I got through 25 years. The last 5 years, alcohol owned me. Okay, my best friend to the albatross around my neck. And the last 5 years of my life were a disaster. And I nearly died. I mean, I know that a lot of us can tell stories and try to top each other about how close we came to dying. But, you know, I've had pancreatitis twice. I've been in alcoholic comas twice. I've had over a 0.5 alcohol level. And I've survived all that. And there's a reason for that, right? So, in 2002, my family had had enough. So my wife had me Baker acted. So I end up in the psych ward, and they say to me, you know what, you should go to treatment. You really need to get sober. And I went to treatment just because it's what they told me to do, and I wanted to act compliant. I don't know about you guys, whether anybody was a problem patient. But if you look up problem patient in the encyclopedia, there's a picture of me. And I'll tell you a couple of stories about that in a minute. So I get through detox and treatment, and I get home, and I stayed sober for 5 whole days. 5 whole days. And then I did something that was really not good. I drank at AA meetings. Drank in the parking lot. Came into the meeting, and then went out and finished what I was drinking in the parking lot. And I'd get home, and my then wife was very naive about alcoholism, and I would have drunk a big gulp cup full of vodka when I got home. And she said to me, what the hell do they do at those AA meetings? Are they weaning you off alcohol? And I said, yeah. That lasted for not very long. She eventually went to court to Marchman Act me. And being Marchman acted is kind of a humbling experience, except if you have a gigantic ego and you go to court drunk. And when the judge remanded me to treatment, I approved it. I actually had the nerve to approve it. That's where my ego was. But again, inside I was scared to death, terrified. So during that second treatment, my family didn't come to visit me, didn't take my phone call, didn't call me, and didn't come pick me up when it was over. And I lived in the same town as the treatment center. I walked home, and as I walked, I got angrier and angrier. And wouldn't you know, I passed the Walgreens. And the one thing I do know is every Walgreens in 3 counties, which ones sell liquor and which ones don't. And I made sure the one I walked by did. So I didn't even make it home sober. Long story short, got home, the house was empty, family's gone, all that's left is an easy chair and a TV, and I think I've won the lottery. And that was the beginning of the end of my drinking career, because what happened was, for the next 6 weeks, I didn't eat. I only drank. I had a bag of M&Ms every 3rd day, a small bag of M&Ms. I lost 65 pounds in 6 weeks. Now, I'm thinking about writing a weight loss book, but that might not be the best way to do it. I also lost all my toenails, and I was yellow. And I was pretty close to death. And my still wife at the time used to check on me about every 3rd day to make sure I was alive. I'm not sure what she was hoping what she would find, but she was checking to make sure I was alive, and she provided me with vodka because she didn't want me to get in a car. And so after 6 weeks, she walked in one day, and I just looked at her and I said, that's it, I'm done. I want to go to treatment now because I want to go and I want to be sober and I want to live. And that was the beginning of my journey. And I mentioned earlier that I was a problem patient, and I was a terrible patient. I almost got thrown out twice because of my ego. Okay? We had a couple of therapists at this treatment center that were over 140 years old at the time, and they're both still alive, so they're both over 155 now. And one of them is pretty well known in the recovery community, and I can't really do it well here, but he used to start every day in our meeting room, and he'd be pounding on the table, and he'd say, you do these 5 things every day, I guarantee you'll never drink or drug again. And he's dealing with me, though. And I have this gigantic ego, and I write in the column, I'm going to do these 5 things, and I'm still going to drink just to prove him wrong. Anybody have that kind of an attitude? Anybody a problem patient? Yeah, we can all be, right? So, along the same time that I learned toothbrush therapy, that's what it's called, somebody said to me, you know, Tony, if you don't get the spiritual part of Alcoholics Anonymous, you're going to die. And I didn't want to die. I had the gift of desperation at this point. If you lose the gift of desperation, you're in big trouble. I was desperate enough to do anything. Getting on my knees was as far from what I wanted to do as you could possibly know. But I needed to get well. And I had no other road. That was the only road I had. So the first thing in toothbrush therapy is prayer and meditation. So every morning I got down on my knees and I asked God to help me to stay sober. 15 years later, I still do that. I pray on the way to work every single day. I have about a 35-minute drive. I'm praying almost the whole way. At the end of the day, I got down on my knees and thanked God for keeping me sober that day. Those were my entire prayers at the beginning. I didn't yet have a relationship with God. I didn't know I was supposed to have a relationship at that point. But almost immediately, I got a sliver of hope. And that's what I was after, was hope. And third or fourth day, I started thinking to myself, I might be able to stay sober. If I could just start doing the things that they tell me to do, I might be able to stay sober, because I never listened to anybody. I was God. Why would I listen to anybody? I know better than anybody else. And some of my successes in my life proved it to me. Of course, that wasn't real. So I started to do toothbrush therapy. And toothbrush therapy, for those of you that don't know, prayer and meditation, go to a meeting every day, talk to another alcoholic or addict every day, read 4 pages of recovery literature, and most importantly, do a gratitude list every single night. The thing I'm the proudest of in my 15 years of sobriety is that I have a gratitude list for every single night of 15 years, even when I was in treatment. And my gratitude list, by the way, for the record, starts with, "Dear God, thank you for," and then I write 5 things. And then I write 3 things I could have done better. Because no matter how strong my relationship is with God, I'm never going to be perfect. I always say or do something foolish, but today I can make amends quickly. I never made amends before. So I started doing toothbrush therapy, and I started listening. At the end of 4 weeks of treatment, they came to me and said, "Tony, you were in really bad shape when you got here. In that first week, you were kind of useless, and we think you should stay another week." And, you know, if you're in treatment and people say you should stay another week, you generally think that they're trying to line their pockets with more money. For the first time, really, in my life, I listened to the instructions and I did it. I said, I will stay another week. Well, like most treatment centers, they cycle the groups. So I learned toothbrush therapy a second time. And this time I learned it in a different way. Because as the song said, I'm not who I used to be. And I already wasn't who I used to be. And so now I started mapping out, okay, how do I get through these 5 things I have to do every day? I figured out it took me 1 hour and 45 minutes, including an hour for the meeting. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I spent a lot more than 1 hour and 45 minutes every day drinking, hiding my liquor, lying about where I was, you know, stealing money from my wife's purse because I didn't have any more because I'd spent it all. I mean, I was just, you know, I was morally, spiritually, and every kind of bankrupt you can think of. And then I found God. And again, I wasn't who I used to be. So I can't really focus enough on desperation. If you feel yourself getting complacent, you're losing desperation. Desperation causes me to do the right thing. So today I try to do the right thing a lot. You know, my rebirth, so to speak, started in that treatment center, but it really moved forward when I started going to meetings when I got out. Because as the new person, I became the guy who they handed How It Works to. And so I read How It Works, you know, 70 or 80 times before it went through my head that the last line of How It Works was, God could and would if he were sought. Wow, what a concept. I thought God, you know, because he could see everything and all that I didn't have to do anything. I just had to be a good guy. Well, I had to build a relationship with God. And what did that mean to me? You're going to laugh when I tell you how some of the silly things I do. When I'm in a hurry to get to work and I get the traffic light stays yellow, that split second long enough for me to get through, I look up and I say, thank you, God. Because I have to give God, I have to honor God every opportunity I get. Every single time. That's my job. My job is to let you and everybody around me know that God saved me. My relationship with God is the most important relationship I have in my life today. All right? Now, I have people I love in my life. My wife is here tonight. Guess what? She has a similar relationship with God. And I'm not the most important thing in her life. God is for her too. And our journey through our marriage and our recovery life these days is every single night we get on our knees together and pray. Every night. I'm honored that she does that with me. That strengthens my relationship with her. It strengthens my relationship with God. And it really helps me to sleep well. So I'm starting my day driving to work, talking to God all the way to work, and I'm ending my day by talking to God as the last thing I do. So as I started to rebuild my life after I got sober, I started to do more and more about whether it was going to church, whether it was making God not just something that I was flippant with because that's what it says you're supposed to do, so I do it. No, I gave my heart to it. I still give my heart to it. I feel like if I didn't do the things that I do and every day build my relationship with God, I'd be going in the wrong direction. And if I start going in the wrong direction, it's going to be a snowball. And I don't want to be that snowball. I'm not, I was sober the first 15 years of my life. I drank for 30, been sober 15. I'm 60 years old. If I go out again, my first drink was Boone's Farm apple wine. I'm not going to that. There's a few of those in the crowd, right? Boone's Farm apple wine? Or Strawberry Hill? Strawberry Hill was the good one, right? I'm going back to the 2-liter bottle of vodka if I go back. And my liver is not going to handle that after 15 years of sobriety. So I guess I'm just going to end by telling you that you're here. This is a great step to be here. The fact that you're here every Wednesday night is terrific. But in order to make God part of your life, have a relationship with God. What does that mean? Acknowledge God every chance you get. Let other people know how important God is in your life. And do the next right thing. Because for me, the third step, following God's will, is what my life is all about. Because I can feel it in my gut when I'm not following God's will, even if it looks good. Right? Even if it looks good, I can feel it in my gut that it's not the right way to go. And I don't know about you, but I know right from wrong, and I can make the right choice. The question is, am I willing to make the right choice? So I'm here to tell you, make the right choice. Keep God in your life. Improve your relationship with God every day. And thanks again for having me. God bless you all. Thank you.